taste herbaceous, you gotta check out Herbaceous Sprouts. All right, welcome back to the Board Game Closet. My name's Jimmy, and I am excited to do a preview of Herbaceous Sprouts. This is by the same all-star team of Steve Finn with the design, Keith Matejka with the solo version, Beth Sobel with the art, and Ben with the graphic design, and of course Ed Baroff that is putting all of this stuff together. They brought you Herbaceous, which is a great game. You need to go check it out. And now they're following up that great card game with a dice game. And I gotta be honest, when I first heard about this, I was crazy excited and nervous at the same time because I loved Herbaceous, the smoothness of it. You could just play the game. It felt like this press your luck game where you're just waiting one more round and then someone takes all of the herbs from you. And so when this game came out, I was very curious and cautious on, I was hoping that this was all going to turn out great. So let me show you what they did and how they kind of flipped it on its head. And I think that they did a great job. Now in Herbaceous Sprouts, you're rolling dice, collecting herbs, and you are planting them into this garden. And so they have these tool cards, right? At the beginning, they're going to flip out tool cards, the number of players +1, and then you draw dice from the bag, you roll them, and then you place them out onto these cards. And so then the first thing that you get to do on your turn is you have to pick one of these cards. And so you would just say, okay, I want this one with the 3 dice on it, and then you take those die faces and then you place them into your wheelbarrow. And this is where you then can take dice and plant them into the garden. Now, some cards like this one, you just get 3 dice. That's awesome. It's a lot of dice, but no special powers. But there are other ones where you get a special power or just another icon here that lets you do a few things. You can re-roll 1 die. You can draw a die from the bag. You can turn a die to a different face. You can use a spade to plant a flower into the garden. You can take 2 seeds and plant 1. And then you can also get these little pots that you get to save for later. So regardless of what's on the card, you're going to take the dice, put them on your wheelbarrow, and then use the ability if you want, or save it if it's the little pot, and then you get a chance to plant into the garden. And this is where they kind of turned the idea on its head. Before, you were trying to make sets of cards, and that was just what you were trying to do, and it was your little garden over here, but people were stealing stuff out of the middle. Well, the way that they flip that is now everybody is, instead of doing their own thing, we're all trying to plant into the same one. And so now it's a race to see who can get the highest points first. Because like in this one quadrant over here, this section of the garden, you're trying to get sets of all the same kind. And so the best that you could do is 6 of the same kind. And if you're the first person to do that, you place your little token down there and you're going to score 12 points. And now that means nobody else can do that. So the best that somebody else could do is get 9 points by planting 5 of the same kind, or 4 or 3. And if all of these were filled up, no one else could plant in that garden. So you've got all the same different types, pairs of herbs, and then the new one, which is flowers. And this is a really cool idea. You got to get a flower, but in order to plant that flower, I have to have a spade, which is on this yellow die. So if I have the flower and I have the spade, I can discard this and then I can plant into this one. And there are only 3 spots for each flower. So if I'm the first one to plant the daisy or the sunflower, or whatever that is, then I'm going to get 4 points. Nobody else can get that many off of that. And like I said before, if this gets filled up, you just can't plant that flower. And so it's this race. And so the press your luck is still there because you're trying to wonder, should I wait one more time to go ahead and plant over there? But I do have the spade and the flower, so I could go over there. Which do I have to do? And the abilities are simple enough on all of these cards that they didn't really complicate anything. They did a great job on your player board here. They tell you what all of the abilities are. They're listed right there. So when you take a card, it's easy enough for you to know what you're able to do on your turn. they introduced a lemonade, a glass of lemonade, and this is a bonus card that goes to the first person who plants in all 4 sections of the garden. If you do that, you get a glass of lemonade. In Herbaceous, it was a biscuit. In Herbaceous Sprouts, we're making lemonade. And so I like that they did that. Keith Mateka came back to do a solo version of the game, which is pretty interesting the way that he did this. And so you've got this deck of cards that adds into the solo play, and I'll let you find out about that on your own. And there's a mini expansion I think that they're going to have in the Kickstarter campaign. There is just a lot that's going on in the game, but ultimately it's still smooth and simple and is a easy to understand game, which I think was they hit it perfect in Herbaceous when they just made this card play game that was fun, set collection, press your luck. It just all made sense. And they're back again. And I think that you're going to like this when they bring in the dice. Now, there is some dice manipulation that you can do with some of the cards and the abilities and being able to re-roll the dice. That's one thing that a lot of people might not like about dice, is that you get what you're stuck with. But in this game, because you have the gloves that let you re-roll, you have the package that lets you flip a die to any side, and the pots, I didn't mention that, but the pots allow you to save a card until you want to use it. And so like this one here says that I can have an extra lavender. So this is great for your sets or your your same and you're not the same garden wherever you want to plant. And so I think that that's really smart how they allowed you to save some cards as you go along and then use them later. I thought that that was pretty neat. Overall, I can be more happy with this game. I know that Pencil First is going to knock it out of the park with their production quality. That is who they are. They have delivered time and time again, and they're one of my favorite companies. I just believe in them. And so if you're interested in backing this Kickstarter, if you got Herbaceous, I have no reservations to recommend Herbaceous Sprouts.